telling you a story. And it's a story from a very long time ago when I was really little, really little. And it was about a time when I believed, well, in a lot of things, but one of the things I believed in was Father Christmas. And I knew that Father Christmas worked really hard on Christmas Eve because he went all over the world and dropped off presents to all the kids. So we had to leave out some mince pies and a glass of whiskey to help him on his way. And if you were lucky, in the morning you had presents. And I knew that from the year before. So imagine this. A cold winter night. I'm snuggled up in bed. Next to me, 2 mince pies and a glass of whiskey. I go to sleep. I hear a noise. I wake up. Next to my bed, in the light from the street lamp outside, I see my dad. Crouched down next to my bed, and in one hand, Father Christmas's whiskey, and in his other, a half-eaten mince pie. Well, I screamed the house down, and my mum ran in, and I thought she was trying not to laugh, but you know, she told my dad off, and my dad said he was so sorry, he'd just been really hungry. My mum went down and replaced the mince pies, and I went back to sleep. And I woke up in the morning, and the mince pies were gone, and I had presents by the end of my bed. It took me a long time to forgive my dad. But yeah. So why do I tell you that story? And I think it's because my parents knew the power of belief and what it could do. And I now know how strong that power of belief is. Sadly, not now in about men in red suits who fly around the world and fairy tales, but in terms of what you want to do in life, it's incredibly powerful. Now, I'm a member of the Women's Business Council, and as part of that, we're looking at how women can contribute to the economy and any barriers. And some really fascinating stats came out of that. Now, some were around appearance. With the pressure in the media and fashion, a lot of girls and women are very worried about appearance. And there were some stats, something like about 25% were really reluctant to take part in sport because of the way they looked. And that's after the fantastic Olympics we had. They could be brilliant at sport. And the same number, academically, won't put their hands up in class. Because once again, they're worried about the way they look. And then that flows through to certain stereotypes and things about history in some of the careers people choose. So it's getting better, but still technology and those kind of things are still very male-dominated. And women at senior levels, people don't put themselves forward. So I think, why is this? We can blame the media, and that's one part of it, but actually, we're all a product of the environment and culture we're in, and we're influenced by the people around us. So we all have a responsibility about how we impact people, and that's from an early age, whether it's your family, your teachers, your friends, your work colleagues. But to believe that anything is possible, what do we need to do? And I think there's probably 2 underlying points to me to help make that true. The first is that you follow your own path, that you look for opportunities, that you look positively on things, and you try out new things. You don't follow the crowd. And the second to me is that you're resilient. You're not put off by failure. There's absolutely nothing wrong with falling flat on your face. I can tell you I've done it an awful lot of times. What you've got to do is pick yourself up and move on and think about the way around things. Now, the theme of this conference is invented here. And self-belief is really important when we think about how we want to invent ourselves or adapt ourselves and what we want to do in the future. So let me just give you a couple of examples of what does that look like and what can I do, and then just a few thoughts and advice. Now, I was born in the East End of London. I went to a local comprehensive school. There's nothing special about me whatsoever. Yet I've managed to do some really good things in my career, some really interesting things. So why is that? Well, that goes back to the influence we all have on each other. And for me, it was family. My dad used to say to me as I was growing up, in a very kind of casual way, but you know, he used to say, you can do anything you want in life. Don't look at what I did, or you know what my grandparents did, or my father did, or people around you. You can work in a shop, you can be Prime Minister, you can be a lion tamer. Doesn't matter, just as long as you're happy. So I was very lucky in that I grew up thinking anything was possible. So if an opportunity came along, I just went for it, because why wouldn't it? I had no kind of stereotypes or boundaries around me. And another really small example of this, another quick story, is I managed to go to university, and when I graduated, I didn't know whether I wanted to work in a shop or be a Prime Minister or be a lion tamer yet, hadn't decided. So I decided to go travelling. And a lot of people said to me, you can't do that, you won't get a job when you come back, it's a waste of a year. But I believed, in the art of the possible, that I would get a job and I was going to go travelling. So I set off, and I ended up a few months later in Australia, in Brisbane. And I'd worked to earn some money to get that far, and I now knew that I had to work to earn some money to get home. And Brisbane in the hostels was surrounded by loads of people working in the bars, or working out at the Whitsunday Islands, in the hotels, or going out to the outback. But I decided, perhaps I knew I needed to reinvent myself, I wanted a proper job. And everyone around me said, you're not going to get a proper job, you've only got a temporary work permit and no one's going to employ you, you've got no experience, you just can't do that. So one day I went and sat in the park in Brisbane, really nice sunny day, sat in the shade in the tree with a nice bottle of water and a very cheap homemade sandwich, didn't have much money, and a great book which was called The Brisbane Telephone Directory. And this was before emails, shows you how long ago, and a stack of paper. And I sat there all day and I wrote 176 letters to companies that I found in that book that sounded interesting. And I told them, though I couldn't work for long, why they should employ me and I should go and work for them. And I got back about 30 answers, 4 were positive, and I ended up working for the stock exchange and then for an environmental company looking at erosion on the barrier reef. And when I came home, apart from that being very interesting, that put me in a brilliant place. Because when I applied for my first job, which was on the graduate trainee scheme, even then it was heavily oversubscribed. But we had to stand up and give a presentation, and whilst everyone else was talking about their bar work or their thesis or what they'd done, I stood up, albeit with a broad Australian accent, and told them about scuba diving on the barrier reef and what the barrier reef might look like in the next 20 years. So it stood me in excellent stead. Now, I still have that belief, but what happens as you go through your career? When you meet broadly 2 types of people. I've met loads of people who said to me, you're not going to be able to do that. Don't apply for that. You haven't got the right skills. You haven't got the right education. It's too risky. You'll fail. Now, I have listened to them because everybody has a valid point of view, but I've listened to them as a learning point. Because I don't believe that anything is impossible. Some things are harder than others, and those ones just take a bit more time, but things are possible. And then I've also been lucky enough to work with some wonderful people who've told me I'm great, I can do it, go for it, and take a risk. And the point is, the responsibility is ours. Although people influence us, we choose who to listen to and whether we believe things are possible or not. Which takes me probably to the last kind of, what would I say in terms of advice? I suppose 3 things. The first is stereotypes. Avoid them at all costs. Put them in a corner, they constrain you, ignore them, they're out of date, just don't have anything to do with them, keep them in touch. Just ignore them, follow your own path. The second is, you've got to take responsibility and be active. When we talk about following your own path, that's action. It doesn't mean stand on your own path. It doesn't mean sit at your desk in the office and wait for recognition. It means do something about it. And what if you don't know what you want to do in life? You don't have to have a grand plan. You can do things in small steps and just see where it takes you. It's about being curious. And the last thing I would say is be true to yourself. Don't try and be something you think you should be to do a job or a career or whatever you want in life. Be true to yourself, be honest, and, well, definitely don't take yourself too seriously, and make sure that you actually help others. Because don't underestimate your influence on those people around you. So that actually probably takes me back full circle to my mince pie story. In that my dad sadly died this year, but we all lose people we love, but actually they live on their influence on us and on others. And that influence can be a wonderful thing. So I'm going to make one request of you, and that is, if you know or you meet anyone who's lost their way or doesn't have that self-belief, then make sure you take the time to either give them or replace their mince pie, and to believe